The next problems we're looking at is, does the equation define y as a function of x? And we're going to graph the linear equation. So when we look at this first problem, which will be number 9 on your review, we want to solve for y to find out if it's a function of x. So I'm going to subtract the x from both sides. That'll get us, because the x's will go away, we're going to get y is equal to negative x plus 36. I'm going to put the x value first so that we can make it easier to graph. In this case, we only got one answer for y when we solved for it. So, yes, this is a function of x. Y is a function of x. This would be yes. Okay. The other part that we need to do for this problem is we need to graph it. Well, if you look here when we solve for it, this is similar, you might recognize, to y equals mx plus b. So here we have our y-intercept, and here we have our slope. Our slope is going to be negative 1 because we have that negative out front that tells us it's negative 1. So we're going to graph. We're just going to graph it on a number line. Now when you're going to graph this, because our y-intercept is 36, we're just going to make some hash marks, and we're going to kind of roughly sketch this. So here we have, we're going to say this is positive 36, and now our slope we know is going to go down 1 and over 1. So from 36, if we're looking at this, we're kind of going by like 5, 10, 15, 20, about 25, so it's a little more than 5. It's not quite 10. So we know it's not going to shift a whole lot, but we're just kind of, if we had a regular number line, we would go down 1 square and we would go over 1. But because we know that this is not quite to scale, we're going to just draw our thing. We're doing a rough sketch here. We're not doing an exact. We could get a little bit more picky on it, but in this case, we're not going to. Your values should be pretty good on the test for you to be able to do that. The next one we're going to look at using the same instructions is number 11 on your review, and we're going to do the same thing. So again, we're going to subtract x from both sides, and we will then get y squared equal to negative x plus 4. Now again, as we look at this, we can see, we've got a squared here. That's our first sign. We talked about this in class, that if we have that squared, that usually means we're going to get 2 answers. But let's go ahead and prove this. As we have y squared, the way to solve that is going to be taking the square root of both sides. So that will get us y equals plus or minus the square root of negative x plus 4. This is where when we introduce a radical into an equation, we have to do plus or minus because we don't know if it was the positives or the negatives that got us there. This part right here tells us that this is not, y is not a function of x, because we will get 2 values of y. For every x that we put in, we would get 2 values of y. So the y on this would be, there are 2 values for y. This would be the y part. 2 values for y. That means as we put in x, we will get out 2 values because of the plus or minus. We're not going to graph this one just to save you some time, but you again would plug in. This one you can't solve for y equals mx plus b, but you can actually plug in some values for your x and get out your y values, and that will, you guys should have practice with that. We've done those things before.